We are joined now by our friend Donald Trump Jr. I imagine that yesterday was a hell of a day for you as you watched all the chaos play out. But I saw you had a great tweet about your dad and the Super Bowl. CBS won't let him do it because it's too political. You said, let my dad do it. He offered, actually capable. He's the clear leading opposition candidate and presumptive nominee. And most important, the Super Bowl is not way past his bedtime. Donald Trump Jr. with us now. What did you think yesterday of the Joe Biden press conference, of the chaos surrounding him? Is there any way he's actually going to be the nominee?
I find it hard to believe. I mean, I put out some tweets about that. Like, I think that was sort of the shot across the bow finally from the Democrats saying we've had enough. I mean, his own DOJ appointed a special counsel that basically said, hey, he's guilty of crimes, but if you put this guy in front of a jury, no one would think he's competent or capable of, remembering anything or what's going on. I mean, that's not a great sign. I mean, so he's not capable of standing trial for being reckless with, and super careless. I mean, the Chinese had access to the Penn Biden Center. Hunter and his partners from all over every corrupt regime around the world had access to the home. The files are stacked in the garage next to the Corvette. That's not a crime, but he's incompetent. But he can still have the nuclear football. I mean, that was really scary. And honestly, like, it all sort of juxtaposed together, because then you watched Vladimir Putin for 2.5 hours give a masterclass dissertation on Russian history starting in the 9th century off the top of his head. And you say, in what planet could Joe Biden compete with that guy on any level? And then that's not being a Putin apologist. That's just being a realist. That's someone objectively looking, at the two people. One guy can't find his way off of the stage. The other gives a dissertation on Russian history, off the cuff. And you start saying, like, we're in serious trouble. We're not being led by the best. On the bright side, I guess Trump is apparently competent to rule the country, because they're going to try him for all sorts of crimes and put him in jail for 700 years. So, that's the silver lining of all of this. So it's just absolutely insane watching what's going on right now.
Yeah, Don, it's Buck. Thanks for being here. It feels like the Democrats are not sending us their best. And this is now the second time that your father will be going up against a Democrat for president who committed crimes. Hillary committed crimes. Everyone knows it. They said, yeah, but not going to call it a crime because it's Hillary. Then your dad said, for the betterment of the country, I'm going to let this go because I'm going to focus on being president for the next 4 years. And now here he is running. And now another Democrat's committed crimes. And now this Democrat, well, I guess Hillary actually did the same thing, but that's a whole other story, trying to use the law as a weapon against your dad. I mean, how do you get past this stuff? And it just feels so personal and so insane.
Well, I mean, it's personal. I know we've had this conversation. I always compare myself to Hunter Biden, and while I understand I'm not the upstanding citizen that he is, it feels like I was treated a little bit disparately, as it relates to everything that's going on, and that continues to be the case. So, it does suck. But what the irony is perhaps even greater in that you have Joe Biden screaming about fascism and all the Democrats screaming about fascism, and yet they are the ones that to a T are following the fascist playbook. I mean, they are the ones trying to jail, trying to silence, actually jailing in many cases their political opposition. So they keep screaming about this word fascism, but it seems as though they don't actually understand what it means, because they are playing out the fascist playbook to an absolute T. But again, that's easy to get away with when you have the entire weight and force of the mainstream media pretending that you guys are, they're so for democracy. You have all of big tech suppressing, censoring, and artificially boosting the Democrats while suppressing the opposition. I mean, you're really living in a dystopian world. And, that really played out yesterday. Watching the mental gymnastics going on Truth Today and on Twitter today, Democrats trying to say, no, Joe Biden, behind closed doors, he's running mental gymnastics, hurdles around all these young Ivy League kids. I'm like, so he's a genius. He's a
sharp
genius
as a tack
behind closed doors, guys, but he can't find his way off of the stage. I mean, he used up all of his genius each and every time behind closed doors, and yet the American public, after 3.5 years, have yet to witness one moment of genius. I mean, that was what's scary. I saw, with the Putin thing, he didn't remember the last time he spoke to Biden. Say what you want about Trump, but he got on the phone. He made the phone call. And, rather than sort of, let's say, since we're on radio, rather than MF someone on a global stage, he said, hey, we had a good conversation. I'm not going to throw him under the bus because if things go bad, I want to be able to make that phone call. I need to be able to make that phone call, and I need someone to be receptive on the other end. It's not a PR stunt. Joe Biden hasn't even thought about making this phone call. We could end this war in 2 seconds if Trump was back, in there. But, the military-industrial complex, Nikki Haley and the likes, they don't want it to end because they're all getting rich off of it, even if we're just killing people randomly in Eastern Europe for the last 2 years.
We're talking to Donald Trump Jr., and I think you hit on something really important among many statements that you made here. Thanks for coming on. The Department of Justice is prosecuting your dad for classified documents crimes. And clearly, if they're deciding to prosecute him, they believe that he is super sound of mind and physically fit. Because the standard for Joe Biden is he committed crimes. There's no way to defend that he didn't, right? And they're essentially saying, hey, because of his age and his lack of intellectual capability, of his, I think, frankly, dementia, he's not going to be charged. To me, that's an argument that is impossible to get past. But if we had we know we don't, but if we had a free and fair Department of Justice, when they released this special counsel report, wouldn't they have said, okay, if we're going to have this standard for Biden, we're dropping all the charges as it pertains to classified documents for your dad? To me, that's an easy argument, and that they would be obligated to do it based on the precedent they're setting for Biden.
100%. But are we still under the illusion that we have even anything that even resembles free and fair, quote unquote democracy in our country? I mean, I understand we're a constitutional republic, but that doesn't seem to matter. They would much rather have democracy so they can infringe on our rights based on the voting capabilities of the millions of illegals that they're letting into the country right now. I mean, that's sort of the plan. I mean, they shot their whole case through the foot because Joe Biden's is frankly much more flagrant. First and foremost, his documents were stored loosely all over the place, right? In his garage. He didn't have Secret Service. He was the VP. He didn't have the ability to declassify those documents like Trump did. It was actually Trump's government he had the full capabilities of declassifying these documents, which he said he did. That's irrelevant to these people because they don't care about reality, the truth, or the law. Joe Biden's case is much more flagrant. He didn't have any of the abilities that Trump had, and yet it doesn't matter. We're going to get him go because, he's a well-meaning guy with dementia. It's no big deal. The jury they'd feel bad for him. I mean, that's basically how he got elected. You look at him and say, he may be an imbecile, but you don't hate him. You feel bad for him. You're not going to go kick an old dog. It was different with Hillary. Everyone could hate Hillary. Democrats could hate Hillary. She was one of the least likable people anywhere in the world. So it was different. That was the whole thing with Joe Biden, and they're going to try to do this. They're going to try to run him either as an old feeble guy or, again, as I said when we started talking, this was the shot across the bow. The Democrats are going to play their games. They're going to put in whoever they want at a time that's a little bit more fitting. They're going to use this excuse to get rid of the guy that they know can't win because the American public, you can't hide from this anymore. You can run a basement campaign in 2020 and blame COVID.
Hey, Don, we're coming to the end of the hour here. I just want to ask you quick. Don, we only got about 30 seconds. How's your dad doing? I mean, with all this stuff going on, last time we saw him, he was his usual self. He was great energy, sent us some milkshakes. How's he handling all this?
Honestly, he's doing well. He's just gotten used to it. His whole life has always been pressure, right? So he does well under pressure. But he understands what it is. He could have stopped. He could have, packed it up after 2020. They would have left him alone. We all understand how that would work. But what we're fighting for is far too critical. He doesn't need this job or the headaches, but he's doing it because he actually believes in what this country stands for. And if someone doesn't fight now, we're not going to recognize this country in a couple of years.
Donald Trump Jr., everybody. Don, come back again soon, man. Thanks for making the time.
Thanks, guys. Be well.